All right, it's recording.
All right. Thanks, guys. We're excited that you're all here. Just a couple quick housekeeping things before we dive in. Like Chris said, we are going to record this and we're going to be posting it on our website, on our library page. The link is showing here on the screen. If you've never seen it before, you might want to check it out. We've got some tutorial videos and other cool stuff on there. And then we are also going to have a PDF version of the notes for this webinar and the slides as well. So feel free to just sit back and kind of absorb if you want to. If you like taking notes, feel free, but you don't have to. We're going to do a question and answer session at the end. So if you could just hold your questions. We do have the chat on Zoom. So if you don't want to forget your question, you can always just jot it down there and we'll get to that at the end when we're done with the presentation. All right, so let's talk about the obvious, why we're here. So these days, it's pretty much agreed by everybody that social media is important for business. And the reason is because that's where people are hanging out. This is really stating the obvious. But, utilizing these platforms is an entirely different thing. So that's really what we're here to learn more about. Some interesting statistics, in case you don't know, over 246 million Americans use social media, and the average time they spend every day using it is 2 hours and 3 minutes. That is a lot of time for you to get your message in front of people, right? Who you are, what you do, reminding them that you're there for them if they're looking to buy or sell a house. This is an enormous amount of time. So understanding how to really resonate with these people and how to reach them is essential for any real estate business. The biggest problems that people face with social media is that they either don't have enough time to post, they don't understand really what to do on each platform, they just kind of randomly post or hope that somebody sees, right? And then lastly, they don't keep things consistent across the board, and mostly because they're not really sure even what to pay attention to as far as keeping things consistent. So those are some of the things we want to go over here. We want to talk about scheduling your posts in advance, which is free. We have a free way to do that. This is going to save yourself tons of time and allow you to be able to jump on one day and get all your posts scheduled for that week or that month, whatever you choose to do. It's super easy and helpful. We also want to talk about the differences between the 6 big social media platforms and how that should actually affect your post strategy. This is something that people don't really think about. They just kind of post the same thing everywhere, which, there's a place for that maybe, but it's a lot better to know what you should be doing on each platform. We want to talk about finding and using relevant hashtags. It's kind of an elusive thing for a lot of people. We want to talk about maintaining consistency and some of the things that you should be paying attention to. And then, of course, we'll do a Q&A session at the end. So let's kick it off with scheduling. So there are a lot of programs out there that actually allow you to schedule social media posts in advance, but Lately Social is our favorite. And the reason is it has most of the features that anybody would need for real estate for free. So we want to show you just a quick little overview. You can find more in-depth tutorials on Lately Social on YouTube and things like that, but we just want to kind of go over some of the features so that you can keep it in mind for your business. The main advantages that we find with Lately Social are that you can schedule your posts in advance, of course, and you can do it all from one site. So you connect all your social media platforms here, and with one click of a button, you can post to all of them, which is super helpful. It saves a lot of time. So let's actually just dive in and just kind of show you around just a little bit. So this is the main screen. I have a demo account set up. So I don't actually have accounts linked here, but I'm just going to show you quickly how you would use this or how you could use this. So from your dashboard, you've got a couple of options. The first thing you're going to want to do is come over here on the left where it says Account Manager, and this is going to be where you can link all of your accounts. If you log into your profiles ahead of time before you log into Lately Social, it's a lot easier to connect them because you can just kind of automatically sync them rather than having to put in the passwords and so forth. Some of them are going to ask you to re-put them in anyway, but I recommend logging in first and then coming over here to link your accounts. A couple of them are going to send you verification codes and things like that as well. But this is really helpful, again, because having everything in one place, it's going to save you a ton of time. So you got a couple of options once you have your accounts linked. Over here on the left, you see the little icons for all of the platforms. They actually just introduced a new feature where you can create a website. So you might want to check that out if you're interested in that. But as far as the social media icons go, if you click on any one of them, you'll have a little post option here. This would be how you would post or schedule a post to one platform. So you just kind of, type in your text, and then you could upload an image, you can do all kinds of things, you can put a link, etc. If you don't want to post right then, you click this schedule button, and then you can go ahead and choose the time, the date. You can choose if you want to, post it in an ongoing way. That's pretty amazing. So you have a lot of flexibility here as far as that goes. The other thing that you can do is post or schedule a post for all of your platforms at the same time. And the way that you would do that is just by hitting post to all. And then, it'll walk you through a series of steps. Once you have your accounts linked, you see here it says add account because this is a demo account, but your platforms will show up in a list here and you can select either all of them or some of them. So let's say you only want to post a certain thing to Instagram and Pinterest. You can select those two. You can, again, schedule it by using this feature here. So it's just really, really versatile. And it pretty much has everything that you need. Now, just really quickly to show you, in case you're interested in upgrading, most people, like I said, can get away just fine with the free plan. It allows you to connect an account for each of the platforms for free. But if for any reason you have, multiple Facebook pages, or maybe you're working with a team, you might want to look at some of these upgrade options and just kind of see, what might be good for you. The only thing that's not ideal about the free version is that you can't post videos to Instagram, which you can when you upgrade. So if that's important to you, you might want to spend $9 a month, but that's up to you. The only drawback with Lately Social is you can't post to your personal Facebook page from here. But that's actually because Facebook doesn't allow you to schedule posts on your personal page. So it's really a Facebook issue. But I just want to mention that in case that gets confusing. That's going to be the one thing that you're going to have to remember to keep up on your own if you're wanting to post content there as well. So that's, again, just a very brief overview, but I just want to, throw that out there. Hopefully it helps you guys and you can look into it more and see if it would be beneficial to you. But I want to get into some of the more, meat of what we're talking about here. Really understanding the platforms, the differences, how that's going to affect your strategy. And it really comes down to why somebody is on that platform. That's not something that people really think a lot about, but it's something that we should be thinking about because there's a difference between posting content and posting relevant content. And relevant content is going to be what gets people interested, gets people following you, and things like that. So that's why this is so important for us to talk about. It's kind of like, I like to talk about McDonald's versus Taco Bell. You're not going to go to Taco Bell if you want a cheeseburger and fries, clearly. So the same is really true for Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. They all have their little fast food specialty, as it were. Not every site is created equal. That doesn't mean that one platform is better than the other. It just means that they're really intended to be used differently. All right, so we want to talk about making sure you're posting the right content to the right platform. That might mean you post a little less frequently in the beginning because you're going to have to spend a little bit more time thinking through what you're posting. But in the end, that's going to actually give you better results for every post. So I definitely recommend taking a little bit more time if necessary and posting a little bit less if necessary in order to make your post really stellar. All right, so let's talk about each platform, just kind of break this down and think it through to kind of get your wheels turning for some ways that you might be able to use this for your business. Let's start off with Instagram. We're actually going to get more in depth into Instagram in a future webinar, which I'll talk about at the end here. But for now, let's just talk about why people are here and how it's going to affect your strategy, or how it should affect your strategy. So people are on Instagram because they're relaxing, right? They're taking a break from the stress of life. They're on their phones. That means they're scrolling quickly on small screens. This is something that's really important to keep in mind, because if you have a lot of small text in your post, or a blog post, let's say, a lot of people are going to just scroll right past it and not even see it, right? So you have to keep in mind where people are using these platforms and what they're there for. You got to be very visual on Instagram. So think in terms of photos, graphs, things like that, things that are eye-catching, that they could see in the blink of an eye while they're scrolling through their phones. They're also there because they want to be entertained or inspired. Instagram is not really a business platform per se. So that means your content really should be intriguing, interesting, funny, inspiring. You don't want to be overly salesy because people will get annoyed. That's not why they're on Instagram. So, be a little bit more lighthearted, be a little bit more subtle in what you're trying to convey so that people are intrigued. People are on Instagram because they are searching for things that interest them. Now, this is a little bit different than some of the other platforms, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But Instagram is a hashtag platform. So people are really searching for things that, they want to see or learn more about or browse through pictures of. So what that means for you is that you really want to be searchable. This means using hashtags well, finding the ones that people are using and using them in those posts. Again, we're going to talk about hashtags as well in a minute. The last thing about Instagram that I want to highlight is that people are follow happy. So they don't really care if they don't know you personally. This is very different from some of the other platforms, such as your personal Facebook page, for example. But what that means for you is that if you're interesting enough to follow, people will follow you. So you can really take advantage of this Instagram culture to grow your follower base with people that you don't know. Okay, so those are some things to keep in mind with Instagram. I want to talk about LinkedIn next, which in my opinion is one of the most important platforms for real estate. And again, we would like to talk about this more in depth in another webinar as well. But let's just talk about the differences between LinkedIn and some of the other platforms, why people are here. So LinkedIn is very unique because this is a professional platform and people are wanting to network with other professionals. So, as opposed to Instagram where people are there to relax, this has a very different feel. What this means is that you can be more straightforward. It's kind of like dropping your digital business card off at someone's office, just like you would do in real life. That's what LinkedIn is all about. People are here because they want mutually beneficial relationships. So this means that you can actually be fairly salesy as long as you're relevant. That's important. You don't want to just spam people, with your business pitch. But if they find you relevant, they will listen. You can be very direct on LinkedIn. I would say arguably more than any other platform. So that's interesting. That definitely would affect what you would say here. The last thing about LinkedIn that's something to keep in mind, the messaging feature is kind of like people's second inbox for people that are very active on LinkedIn. They check that all the time. So that means that although you should post because it will show up in people's feeds, you don't want to just post on LinkedIn. You want to think about some strategies for striking up one-on-one conversations, whether that be with vendors or potential clients or past clients, but really put some thought into talking to people on LinkedIn. All right, so let's talk about the most famous platform, Facebook. So people are here because they want to connect with people they know personally. So I kind of contrasted that with LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, with Instagram a moment ago, where Instagram is a very, it's a culture that's very friendly towards following strangers. Facebook, your personal Facebook page, that's not really the case, right? You don't really accept friend requests if you don't really know the person. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this, but as a rule, people want to connect with people they know. So, this is going to be a platform where you are really trying to remind people that already know you what you do. So, you want to think in terms of posting about your daily life as a realtor. You want to subtly be reminding them what you do, kind of just always being in the back of their mind so that when they have to buy or sell a house the next time, they're like, oh, yeah, John Smith is a realtor. I remember I saw his post last week about, okay, so this is really the point of your personal Facebook page. Now, Facebook business pages are different. Those are more for connecting with strangers. Now, to use your business page, you kind of want to be ready to spend a little bit of ad money because Facebook allows you to really target a certain audience, a certain location, and this can be very effective, and it's an entirely different strategy. So, as far as ads go, I definitely recommend looking into that and kind of understanding the business part of it. But I want to talk more about the personal side of these platforms for the time being. So again, for your personal Facebook page, people are curious about their friends' lives and they're looking at their news feed. So they're not really searching for things as much as they would be on Instagram, like we just talked about. So this is a place where you're not going to be focusing as much on topics and trends. You're focusing more on being personable, like we were just saying, reminding them of what you do. So these are just some things to keep in mind to make your posts as effective as they could be. YouTube. Now, this is a very misunderstood platform, in my opinion. There's a very specific type of person that is going to YouTube. They're looking for free information, free advice, or free tips. Now, you could say entertainment could be its own separate category as well. This means that if you are posting on YouTube, it really needs to have value. The content needs to have value. It needs to meet one of these criteria that people are on there searching for. So you could think in terms of home selling tips, a vlog, if you have that kind of personality. But if you're not really meeting one of these things, the information, advice, tips kinds of categories, you're not going to get a lot of attention. So think about it, give it some thought, because if you're not really going to meet these needs, then YouTube might not be the best place for you. But if you have an idea for some kind of content with value, it can be an amazing platform for you. People are here because they're lazy, actually. They don't really want to go researching Google to find the answers to their questions. They want to just pull up a video and watch it really quickly. What this means for you is that your content is going to need to be clear, usually fairly short and pretty easy to understand, digest, and that kind of thing. You don't so much want to focus on 2-hour videos, that kind of thing. So those are just some things to keep in mind. I'm not saying that you can't post other things on YouTube. By all means, when you have a listing, post that video on there. But as an ongoing strategy, I'm talking about content with value as far as YouTube goes. So, and that's, just as a side note, really quickly, that's actually something to keep in mind with all of these platforms. By all means, post your listings, post different things. Just don't make it the only thing that you post. Okay. So when I'm talking about content strategy, this is really talking about in between your listings, what you should be doing to keep your platforms engaging and consistent and so forth. All right, so let's talk about Pinterest really quickly. So people are on Pinterest because they're looking for inspiration or ideas. It's similar to Instagram, but it's a lot more visual even than Instagram is. So your goal with Pinterest is really like, wow. You want people to say, wow. So this could be beautiful pictures of homes, pools, decks, you name it. But you want people to be so intrigued by that picture that they're clicking the link that you have linked on that picture, which should ideally lead them somewhere like your website, maybe your business page on Facebook, whatever you want them to go land on. This is really the purpose of Pinterest, okay? So if you don't have something wow, I would say don't even put it up at all. But if you have something wow, Pinterest is going to be a platform for you to use. So last but not least, Twitter, or I should say maybe Twitter is the least actually, but people are here because they're curious about trends. If you use Twitter correctly, it is still an effective platform, but it really comes down to using it correctly. So because people are curious about trends, this again comes down to being relevant and using a lot of hashtags. This is actually the platform where hashtags began. A lot of people don't know that. But people are on here and they are searching. So just keep that in mind. And that brings us to hashtags. So I've talked about hashtags a bunch with some of these platforms. So let's really kind of get into this and understand what makes a good hashtag, how to use it, how to find them. That's really, I think, the most important thing. All a hashtag is a way to make something searchable, right? So whether it's a word or a phrase that you're using in your post, if you put a hashtag in front of it and somebody searches for that thing, they can find your post. Now, that's probably fairly obvious, but hashtags are kind of one of those things that have become very overused. So I just want to highlight that that is really the purpose of hashtags. So this is particularly useful on platforms where people are looking for inspiration and ideas or trends like we were just going over and discussing. Your post is going to be easier to find if you have hashtagged it correctly. All right, so I want to give you an example of this. So I have Instagram pulled up here. So I want to show you what happens if I search for certain hashtags. Now, it's going to look a little bit different on your phone, which is where most people use Instagram, but just for the purpose of this demonstration, it's the same on both. If whether you're using the computer or your phone, you'll see a search bar. And if you click in there, and let's just use hashtag Realtor as our first example, you'll notice a couple of things. One is that Instagram actually populates a bunch of other hashtags that it thinks are relevant. The reason this is amazing is because there's going to be a lot of things on here that you probably wouldn't have thought of on your own. But look how many posts are using these hashtags. That is a lot of posts, right? So you can kind of get some ideas from this of what people are using. You could also get ideas of what to post based on these hashtags. For example, Realtor's Life, that's more going to be something personal about you or your approach to real estate. So you could keep that in mind. Oh, that's a hashtag people use. Okay, interesting. So what I recommend doing is coming up with a list. So start off like I just did with, one hashtag that you can think of, like realtor, and see all of the ideas that populate from that. You'll obviously see some in here that won't be relevant to you, but a lot of them will be. So start building a list that you can work off of and kind of pick and choose from for your posts going forward. Let me give you another example, and then I want to point out something else as well. So let's do hashtag real estate. All right. So here you can see it populates some of the same hashtag suggestions, but it's a lot of different ones. So you got to get creative, try to look up 5 to 10 hashtags that kind of pop into your mind of words that describe your business and just see what Instagram has to offer you, basically is what it is. So I want to highlight something here. Notice how many posts these hashtags have, and I did mention that just a second ago, but I want to break down understanding what that number means. Okay, so hashtag real estate has 44 million plus posts that have used that hashtag. That is a very high number. Most of them won't be that high, but the difference between a high volume hashtag like this, what I mean is a lot of posts have used that. So a high volume hashtag versus a low volume hashtag, let's say, okay, real estate goals, that's not really very low volume, but it is certainly lower volume. All right, so the difference is if you have if you have a hashtag that has a lot of posts associated with that, that means more people search for it, which is good, but it also means you have more competition, right? More people using that hashtag, which means if somebody searches for it, your post is competing with a lot of other posts. Low traffic is the opposite. So you have less searches, less people looking for it, less people using it, but you have less competition. So if somebody searches for it, they're more likely to see your post. It's not necessarily that one is better than the other or that one is good and one is bad. They're really just different. So I recommend kind of using a mixture of high volume hashtags and low volume hashtags. You can kind of experiment a little bit and see when you use certain hashtags, what kind of responses do you get, and kind of just feel it out for yourself. But I just want you to understand what those numbers mean. Okay. So, one thing I want to mention in case you don't know, people on Instagram can actually follow hashtags. So, just like you would follow your friends and then their posts would come up in your feed, if I follow the hashtag real estate, which many people follow hashtags on Instagram, then if you use the hashtag real estate, your post will come up in my feed, even if I have not followed you. That is a very powerful thing. This really allows you to get a lot of exposure to people that you don't already have a connection with. Okay. So you can actually search for, hashtag real estate. If you click on this, let's say, it will bring you to all the posts that use that hashtag. So you can get an idea of what other people are posting. You can get some inspiration for your own posts. It sorts it by top posts. So these are the ones that have the most likes, the most comments. You can see what people really like. And then you can also, this one doesn't have it. That's interesting. But some of them will say recent posts. So you can kind of sort between those two categories to get an idea and get inspiration for yourself. The last thing I want to show you on Instagram here is an example of a maybe not so great hashtag. So sold would be a hashtag that a lot of people would probably use when they're posting about a listing that they've just closed on. But if you look through these related hashtags, there's a lot of stuff that's not relevant. Okay, sold out, that has nothing to do with what you're saying. Sold my soul, that has nothing to do. So this is kind of an indication that maybe that's not the best hashtag. And what I mean by that is people searching for that may not really be interested in real estate at all. So in a sense, you've kind of wasted a hashtag. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you're looking through these hashtags and creating that list like I was talking about. I highly recommend doing that. You want to use about 12 hashtags per post. That's kind of the sweet spot. If you use less than that, you're really not getting as much exposure as you could be getting. If you're using more than that, a lot of times the platforms could think you're spamming people and they could start potentially putting some restrictions on your account. So you really don't want to be using like 50 hashtags or anything crazy like that. All right. So try to use different hashtags. Like if you make your master list, don't use the same ones every time. Kind of try to mix and match depending on what the topic is that you're posting, and just see how things are working for you. Now, you're going to get different results the more that you gain followers, and there are a lot of factors, but this is a very forgiving platform because you can post, and if it didn't work, oh well. You post again, you try a different hashtag set, you see what happens. All right, so let's go to our next topic here, consistency. And I won't take too long with this. I just want to cover a couple of things before we get to the questions and answers, if anybody has any. So the purpose of being consistent on social media is really about helping people remember who you are. And when I talk about consistency right now, I'm talking about who you are as far as how you present yourself. It doesn't mean that your posts always have to be the same. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you as a realtor, how you present yourself, what you look like, your photos and different things, it should really be the same. So we talked a little bit about the psychology of how people remember you and that they really need to see the same thing over and over. We talked about this in our branding webinar, which is also on our library page if you're interested in looking at that. But the point for what we're talking about today is really helping people remember who you are. If I'm a client that's looking to connect with you on Facebook, let's say, and your profile picture is your dog, or maybe it's you far away with sunglasses, I'm not going to know for sure if it's you, and I'm not going to send you a friend request because I don't want to friend some random person. I want to friend you, and I don't know if this is you. That's not good. Okay. So you really want to pay attention to helping people recognize you so that they make that connection with you and they know it's you when they're on those platforms. So pay attention to these particular things: your profile picture, like I just mentioned, your header or your banner photo, which some of the platforms don't have, but platforms like, Twitter, Facebook, things like that, where you have that photo in the background, make it the same. I don't care if it's your logo, your contact information, whatever it is, make it the same everywhere so that people are like, oh yeah, that's so and so. Like I'm friends with them on Facebook, so I know that this is also them on Instagram. You know what I mean? So the same goes for your contact information. There are a lot of people that don't keep this consistent everywhere. So you want to have your same website link, your same email address, your same phone number in all of your little contact info sections of your platforms. So you know how they all have that little section that you fill out your details. Make it the same. If you have more than one website, pick one. If you have more than one email address, pick one. Okay, make it the same, because if people get confused, it automatically leads to them hesitating to contact you, and you don't want that. That's just psychologically how it works for people. So just eliminate that confusion for people, and remember to update it everywhere if you have any changes. If you have a new website, if you have a new brokerage, make sure you really remember to go everywhere and change that. Okay, same goes with the tagline, the bio, about sections. Different platforms call it different things, but this is really the same concept. Keep it consistent. Whatever it is that you're saying, say the same thing about yourself in every spot. We talked about this in our branding webinar as well. So again, I encourage you to watch that, but you can have the same message condensed down into different lengths. So you might have a paragraph version, a sentence version, a slogan version, and you might use them on different platforms. Like some of them have character limits and things like that. But the point is, what you are saying, the core essence of what you are saying is the same. Okay. So you don't want to have on one about section, like, mom of 5 with no reference to real estate. And then on your other profile, say realtor. That's confusing. Come up with something that's the same or can be the same everywhere. Okay. And then, lastly, I want to say, I want to just mention links. The reason I mention links is because I've seen a lot of people that have different links. As what I mean is, like, if you have 2 Facebook pages, for example, somebody might link to one of them in their email signature and then another one on their website. Don't do that. Pick one. Again, pick one and link to it everywhere, just so that people can remember who you are and what you do, and they don't have that confusion and hesitation. You don't want that there. All right. So in summary here, wrapping up, I just want to talk about, the purpose of everything we're saying is really about gaining followers. You got to be intentional about it. Okay. So we've talked a lot about how you would connect with strangers, but don't forget the people you already know as well. So if you don't have any followers on these platforms, nobody's hearing what you're saying, right? So it's really important. Hashtags are really important when it comes to turning strangers into followers, but you don't want to forget about the real life connections that you have as well and staying in front of them constantly. So think in terms of past clients that you have, current clients, maybe you know some prominent community members, maybe you have colleagues or fellow students, family, friends. Think about who these people are and go and connect with them in all the places that you possibly can, because somebody might, they might prefer Instagram, this other person might prefer Facebook. So you really want to make sure you connect with everyone everywhere as much as possible. So I recommend just coming up with your list of people and then just doing a search on the platforms to try to find these people, send them a request to connect. So to summarize what we're talking about, really using social media correctly is all about understanding who you're trying to connect with, why they are on that platform, right? What they are looking for, so that your content can be relevant. Okay. And then consistency is about making yourself memorable, eliminating that hesitation for people. So, just remember at the end of the day, it's really better to have 100 followers that are genuinely interested in what you're posting than 100,000 followers who don't pay any attention to your posts. So this is really the point of what we're talking about, being relevant, understanding your target so that you can connect with them, resonate with them. I recommend starting slow. Try to do 2 or 3 stellar posts a month. And then when you get the hang of it, you can always increase that once you see what's working or not working. You can add more posts and kind of expand from there. But anyway, I hope this is helpful just to get your wheels turning. And, everyone's going to have a little bit of a different strategy. But if you keep these things in mind, it's really going to help you be a lot more effective than if you didn't keep them in mind. So before we open it up to questions and answers, I just want to say really quickly, in case any of you need to leave now, just as a heads up, our next webinar is going to be about Instagram, specifically how you can get hundreds of followers just spending 5 minutes a day doing certain steps. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be December 9th, and we'll announce that one just like we did this one. So if you're interested in how to use Instagram, tune in for that. And that's it. If you guys have any ideas for topics that you'd really like to learn more about, please send us an email and let us know. And thank you for coming. And I think we're ready for any questions and answers.
I think we have one question from Celine. How can you download a picture from Instagram?
Okay, so let's see here. It is a little bit different on the web version versus the phone version. So depending on if you have an Android or an iPhone, there's a lot of factors. Usually on a phone, if you hold down an image, it will pop up with an option to save, things like that. If you're on a computer, if you click on the image, like if you click on the post, I'm sorry, if you right click on the image, you'll see that there's an option to save as, and then you can tell it where on your computer you want to save that image. Be careful not to plagiarize images though. I will say that because some people get really annoyed. Like if they see you post their image, they might not be happy about that. But this is how you would do it. Good question though, actually. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, hold on. With Lately Social, is there a maximum number of posts per month? And can you summarize the differences with Hootsuite? That's interesting.
Yes, that is interesting. So Hootsuite, to be honest, it's been a while since I have used Hootsuite. So it might be that they've got some updates that I'm not aware of. But Hootsuite, honestly, with all the research that we've done, and we have done some research on this with Picture Perfect, trying to decide what we want to use, Hootsuite really has the same main features. They're just a lot more expensive. And I think it's because they're more reputable. They have a different layout, so you can kind of create feeds and see what you're posting in different places in one glance. So visually, I would say they probably do have some advantages. They probably have some features I am not aware of, just to be totally honest. Again, I haven't used them in a while.
But if I can say, I've used Hootsuite. I think it's a lot more clunky and harder to use. You know what I mean? Lately Social is very straightforward and very simple. Hootsuite, not so much. I definitely don't like it as well as Lately Social. Does the same thing, like you said, more expensive and clunkier and not as intuitive to use, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. There was a second part of that question. I'm not seeing it here.
Is there a maximum number of posts per month? There isn't, right?
Oh, I don't think so. Now, sometimes if you post too much in a given hour, let's say, I think they do have a limit for 5 posts an hour or something. For most people, that's really not going to be an issue.
Right.
And that just comes down to, you might need to schedule something an hour after you had planned to schedule it if you're really using it all the time.
Yeah.
But if you're not using it like constantly, you shouldn't run into that. We only run into that when we're having to post like, 5, 6, 7 things all at once. But other than that, we don't run into it at all.
Peter and Judy said, back to lately social, could you go directly to Instagram and post video since you can't post via lately social? Well, you can, but not on the free version. But you want to address that?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Like Chris said, you can post videos if you upgrade. As far as the free version, so, oh, sorry, the chat is, I'm losing the question here on the chat. Hold on one second. So there are a couple ways to do this. You can either upgrade or you can post the video from your phone. Unfortunately, Instagram does not like people using them from their web browser. I
No, it's
don't know
hard.
why they do this,
Yeah,
but you
hard.
can't post a video directly to Instagram from your computer. So you can do it from your phone, or you can upgrade Lately Social and do it that way. Those are the only two ways that I know of at this time to do video on Instagram. I do occasionally check and see if there's any new hacks that people have come up with. You might want to do a YouTube search every once in a while to see if somebody has a suggestion, but so far those are the only methods that I'm aware of.
I think if you're going to post a lot of video, it makes sense to upgrade. It's only $9 a month, and people love video. Video is so in right now. I would invest the $9 a month to do video and do it really easily. Trust me, we post a ton of videos every day, and it is so simple. You will be happy that you're using Lately Social. So let me see.
One
Um,
more thing on that too is
yeah,
that you can do a 1 month subscription and try to post some videos and see if you're getting better reactions and engagements. If not, you can always cancel it. So,
that's true. Yeah.
that's something you might want to do too.
So Brooke says, you recommend 12 hashtags for Instagram. Do you recommend 12 hashtags with Facebook as well?
I do, just because there are people that use Facebook as a search engine. Not many. It's not like it is on Instagram, but if you're going to do the work of getting your hashtags together anyway, I recommend using them everywhere
Yep.
because you're going to catch that one person that might be searching for something. So, yes, definitely.
Celine said, I've seen a few people's posts with different fonts. How do they do that?
um, let's see. I'm not sure I understand the question, Celine. Are you talking about the actual text itself? Sometimes people are posting what is actually a photo, even though it looks like a post, but they might have done that in Photoshop or something like that and then uploaded it. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. But that's something I've seen. And as far as I know, like if you just go to Facebook, for example, and you create a post, I don't think you can change
She
the
says
font.
actual text. I don't know how to do
Actual
that either.
text.
Maybe we should investigate that. She said it's
Yeah.
actual text.
Okay. Yeah, I've not seen that. I have seen people make it bold. I have seen that
Brooke says
actually.
she's seen it too. So maybe that's a good thing we
Interesting.
should investigate ourselves.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Huh.
Um, I do recommend, like, if you want something to stand out, it might be a good idea to make the post a photo with text, and you can choose the text and everything, and then upload it. That's what we do for a lot of our marketing posts. Good questions, guys. This is
I know. I think I got them all. Let's see.
I'm looking to.
Um, I'd be interested in a future webinar on the new social platforms and how they work. MeWe and Parlor, they seem to be growing in
Mm-hmm.
popularity. Hmm.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Social media is one of those things that's always changing, isn't it? So you
It
gotta
is
like
always
stay on
changing.
top of it.
I know.
But yeah, those are, I kind of feel like the way things are trending at the moment is Instagram is definitely one of the hottest ones, but that could change. I mean, Facebook has
Mhm.
lost a little bit of popularity in the last couple of years, and so yes, I think that would be something worth looking into for sure.
Okay, I'll write that down. Anybody else have any other questions? I don't think so. Well,
Right.
thank you for coming. If you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Tess or I. Tess would be the better person. Her email address is Tess, TESS, at pictureperfectllc.com. And do you have anything else to add, Tess?
I don't think so. I really appreciate you guys making the time to come. I hope it was helpful. And if you think of other ideas for webinars, please, whenever you think of them, just send us an email. And if we get enough interest on a particular topic, we'll do that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. See you later. Bye.
Bye.